pollution in Jakarta has become a much talked about topic on social media, and to further discuss the matter, we now have the co-founder of Napas Indonesia, Piotr Jakubowski, here at the studio, and pulmonologist from Persahabatan Hospital, Dokter Erlina Burhan, joining us online.
Hi, Piotr and Dokter Erlina. We're connected to you. We're waiting for you to appear on our screen. Hi, Dokter Erlina.
Hello, how are you?
It's been a while. During intense COVID days, we usually, communicate with Dokter Erlina
Like almost
on a
every
weekly
day.
basis.
Exactly.
I thought we're not gonna see each other again.
Now we see us, and we're glad to see you again.
But I don't know, it's bittersweet because now we have to face a completely different issue. Now, Dr. Erlina, maybe to you first. Indonesia has suffered from very poor air quality for quite some time now, and is even among the worst top 5 nations of air quality in the world. Can you tell us the impacts of this situation on our health? I mean, I'm already sniffling at this moment. It might be my allergies, but what do you think, Doc?
Yes, it is very obvious that the poor air quality will have the significant impact on the public health issue, especially respiratory system. So, regarding the impact to the respiratory system, there is a short-term impact such as, first, the pollutant can cause irritation of the airway, and then also will create or develop the inflammation. Irritation and inflammation can give a symptom of sneezing and also coughing and even fever. There is another good condition, but there is also can lead to the condition of pneumonia, and it will be very dangerous if the community have a special health condition such as asthma, COPD, or among elderly and other vulnerable group are children or newborn or even pregnant women. So there are short-term impact and also long-term impact, especially with the respiratory symptom. And we have to see also the level of PM 2.5, which is the very fine particular of the pollutant that can penetrate directly to the lung tissue and also even can enter the bloodstream. So not only the respiratory system will get the impact, but also the cardiovascular, such as heart attack and also stroke and other heart disease.
So, Dr. Erlina, we have seen this pollution for quite some time now, and there's data that starts to arise, reports of more amounts of patients coming in because of lung diseases, let's say, or affected by this. Could you explain to us the situation on the field right now, as of the last couple of months, because the pollution has been so bad? Do you see in practice or on the field a very significant amount of lung disease infected patients here in Indonesia?
Okay, thank you. I'm in the hospital right now doing my private practices, and I come to the awareness that lately I have more patients coming due to the coughing, breathlessness, and also the asthma attack. Usually I do a lot of tuberculosis patient, but recently more people coming due to the symptom of coughing, short of breathness, and also the asthma attack.
All right, now I'd like to move to Piotr. So, Piotr, there's a debatable topic nowadays that government stands on its ground that, hey, the measurement that you use, IQR, is different to what I use. So we cannot generalize the results, and they insisted, at least today, one of the officials from the Environment Ministry said that actually the measurement is different. So the air quality of Jakarta is actually quite good to quite worse. Not very bad as reported or as mentioned on IQR index, right? So according to you and your organization, Napas Indonesia, how do you guys measure it, the air quality index? in Jakarta especially?
Yeah. So thank you. When we started Napas around 3 years ago, one of the main reasons why we started it was because there really wasn't that much data readily available. And what we did is we started installing what's called low-cost sensors in multiple locations. Today we're in 15 cities, over 200 locations, and this data is readily available for people to see it. Now, the way these sensors work is there's a laser particle counter, and it counts how many particles are in the air, and then it converts that into a number. Now, what the ministry was referring to was using reference information, reference monitors, which if you've been to Bundaran HI, there's like this building next to the police box with an LED above it. That whole building is an air quality monitor, right? Now, trying to replicate that across the city is really expensive and really, really difficult. So it's not a question of which one is better and what do you use. I'll use an analogy. If somebody is diabetic, they need to take their blood. And they need to take their blood in order to understand, do they need insulin or do they not need insulin? Now, the most accurate representation of this measurement is if you send it to a lab. But you can't go to a lab 5 times a day. Right?
Exactly.
And you have a device at home that tells you, within a certain degree of accuracy, that this is what your level is and this is what you need to do. In terms of what we're building, that's actually exactly what we're building. We're letting people know in their neighborhood, near their house, near their school, what these levels are at. The network that we have is actually calibrated against reference monitors.
Right. So what kind of method that you use? Is it the same as IQ Air? Is it the same as the government use? The method?
I can't speak for IQ Air because the individual data points from each sensor, we don't know where they come from. In terms of the Napas network, our outdoor sensors are all devices that are made in the European Union. They're used by thousands of municipal governments across Europe, in the US, in some other countries around the world. And we take a lot of care in maintaining a high level of accuracy, which is why we calibrate with the US Embassy government station here in Jakarta.
Okay, I'd like to ask about this, Kai, about the second most debatable topics, which is the cause of the pollution, right? Some of the activists or NGOs always say that transportation is number one, but industry surrounding Jakarta, the coal-fired power plant sits at number 2, but the government always says that, oh, it's just less than 10%, or Greenpeace even said that it contributes 20%, quote unquote, only, right? And the other are public activities. But do you also monitor and do you also observe the cause of the pollution that we can, of course, we can fix that from the root of the cause?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of having a very, very dense network, greater Jakarta area, we have about 120 sensors, is we can see how pollution moves around the city, and we could see potentially where it comes from. Now, in order for us to really know 100%, you have to do something that's called a source apportionment study. And in this study, you basically take these pollution particles, you collect them, you look at them under a microscope, and then you're able to tell, okay, X comes from this, Y comes from that, Z comes from that. In terms of our experience, and I'll use another analogy here. There's so many different sources of air pollution. Trying to go out and say that's number 1 or that's number 2 is kind of like taking a look at your lifestyle. Maybe you're a little bit overweight. Now, the things that contribute to you being overweight is you don't really sleep very well, you might eat really bad stuff, you might not go to the gym, you might not do activities. To say that only solving one of these things will make you a better, healthier person is not the case. You have to take a look at everything holistically, and you have to take a look at your sleep, your what you eat, how much you move around, how much you go to the gym. It's exactly the same thing from an air pollution perspective. It's not just a question of
pinpoint who's
change
wrong,
all the
who's
cars to
right.
EVs or shut down all the factories. It's taking a look at all of these different components and then creating a strategy that's going to take 10, 15, 20 years
That's a very good
in order to take it
analogy,
about.
actually.
So,
So the solution is not short term; it's long term, right?
No, it's definitely a long-term problem. I'll give you some examples. 1956 was the London smog. If you watch The Crown, there was actually a whole episode in The Crown above this. In 1958, the UK created the Clean Air Act, which set aside a whole bunch of strategies, including decommissioning coal-fired power plants that were in the middle of the city, right? That's one of the things that they did. And it took them 20, 30 years for the air pollution to improve significantly. Same thing happened in the US in the 1970s with the Clean Air Act. And the same thing happened in China right around the Beijing Olympics, where the Chinese government declared a war on pollution. They actually called it a war on pollution. And they did a lot of things that the Chinese government can do. They move factories, they move things around. And today, Beijing is actually very consistently below Jakarta in the rankings from an air quality perspective, where 5 or 6 years ago, it had almost double the pollution that Jakarta had. Wow.
I can attest to that. I was there 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a very, very different place. I mean, you could see that everything is yellow in the morning, and something I really wish I would never see here in Jakarta, actually, and I'd never thought that that would be happening. But Piotr, we're going to get back to you in just a little bit. We're going to go back to Dr. Erlina right now. Doc, would such pollution have different impacts on those who live in apartments and those in regular houses? Because there is a different circulation management in these buildings, right?
Yes, I think there is some of differences impact to those who live in the apartment and also those who live in the regular house. So, but before I answer that question, I think I would like to ask the people especially who live in Jakarta, to keep inform yourself about the quality of Jakarta pollution level. Then you can decide whether you go out or not. So, and then regarding the apartment differences with those people who live in the houses, I think there are some different people who live in the apartment. It is they actually can have a better maintenance of the indoor quality air condition, since some apartments have this central system for their air fresh for the ventilation. So that allow them to give a bit of control.
Okay.
But in the regular house, they also have the advantage of having windows and everything, so they will be able to have this air change per hour is a better level for the air change per hour. You know, ACS is one of the parameter to see whether one room have a good quality of the circulation. So, and also in a regular house, you live next to the ground that have also the green environment, which is difficult for you to have in the apartment. But actually in apartment there is also now people like to create a green environment by having this indoor plant. So I mean those places actually can be customized regarding to the facility of each place.
You know what? I'm going to do something a little bit out of the box here, because Doc mentioned apartment and houses, and I know Napas has this thing that is on the table that thanks to you.
Purifier.
Well, can you please explain what it is? Because Napas was kind enough to send as a baby shower present one of this the sensors, if I'm not mistaken. So, can you tell us what this is? Because I remember a couple of years ago during COVID when we spoke to you, you mentioned about it's not even air quality has come to a point where it's not necessarily even healthy when we open the window in the morning anymore. So, can you elaborate on that for those of you viewers who perhaps are hearing about Napas for the very first time, Piotr?
So maybe what I could do is explain to you what this device is. So this is an indoor air quality monitor. So when you open up the Napas app, you see all those dots outside. Well, this is a device that you can actually put into your house. And what it does is it does the same thing. It measures the air quality and it tells you what it's like, right? So right now, the indoor air quality here is at a PM 2.5 level of 41. That's unhealthy for sensitive groups, right? So let's actually see
For sensitive groups.
what the air quality.
Sensitive group.
So the outdoor air quality at Wahid Hashim right now is 36. So the air quality in here is actually worse than outside.
In Wahid Hashim outdoor?
Yes, outdoor.
Oh, wow.
It's actually worse than outside. So one of the reasons why we did this was because in some buildings, and we recently published some information about this, outdoor air pollution comes inside. Now outside you have wind blowing things away. Right here, once it comes inside, it generally stays in here until something happens to it. Now in countries where you don't have pollution outside consistently, you can open the windows and just let it out.
Yeah.
But if it's bad outside and you open the windows, then you're basically
Exposing
stuck
the inside
in a
too.
pretty interesting situation. So just like Dr. Erlina had mentioned, checking your air quality outside when you have these activities is important. And for those who can, checking air quality inside is also something important, because outside we may not have much control of it, but inside, just like you can turn on your AC, you can turn on your lights, you can turn off your lights, you have full control over your environment.
Including air purifiers that became so popular during COVID-19
Exactly.
as well.
Correct.
All right, I'm going to ask you about the solution, though. So, how to lower the pollution rate nowadays? Like, from the government, should we make Clear Air Act, like what the US and the UK did? And in terms of the citizens, what can we do? What can we contribute?
Absolutely, we should create a Clean Air Act. That's probably the best thing that can happen, because unfortunately, this air pollution problem isn't going to go away next week. It's not going to go away next month. It's going to take years and years of planning, and then years and years of execution in order to make it happen. The industries that contribute to it are power generation, our industries, our transportation and logistics, our waste management, are a whole lot of these different things that not only need to be regulated, but need to be enforced. I'll give you one example. The anti-trash burning law in Jakarta was signed into existence by none other than Governor Jokowi in 2013. And here we are 10 years later, and you can walk outside and probably every day see somebody who's out there burning trash. So that law on paper already exists, but it just needs to be enforced. So looking at it holistically and putting this plan together is something that a Clean Air Act can do. And one of the things that we're really hope for is that not just Napas, but a lot of other organizations can participate in solving this problem together, because it's a problem for all of us.
Right.
And if we don't put our collective resources together, it may be tougher to solve than we would want to.
So it's easy to put black on white paper, but it's not easy to enforce the law that we have created.
Correct.
But the contribution that we can do, is it by working from home would help, or moving our capital city to Kalimantan would help?
It really depends. Every different city. One of the things at Napas we like to talk about is about hyperlocal pollution. Just to give you a bit of a perspective on that, if you live in North Jakarta near the port, one of your main pollution sources is going to be from the port.
Yeah.
When you live in South Jakarta, the port is not a main source of pollution. There's something else, right? So, actually, just picking up and moving somewhere may not be an option for everybody. So having this kind of holistic approach and holistic view would be really, really helpful. And then once again, doing the research around the sources that are there, identifying the contribution from each, and then one by one eliminating them. In terms of what we can do, one of the things that we talk about is this air pollution problem. It's just like being on an airplane. When you hear the announcement, they say, hey, put your mask on first and then help others. So what can you do as an individual? Just like Dr. Erlina said, you can check your air quality in the morning before you go out. If it's a really terrible day, then maybe you cancel your outdoor activities. If you need to be outside, wear an N95 mask. There's plenty of them around that you can get. And then if you have that opportunity to get an air purifier for your house or for your office or for your kid's school or wherever it is, That's unfortunately one of the only things that that we can do, because these big movements are going to come from government policy.
It really hits me, that we really need air purifier because, from the device that you brought, the air quality here in the studio is worse than the air quality in Wahid Hashim outdoors. So
But
it's quite
I think this is also a testament to Piotr. Thank you so much for your organization, for giving access, for having the possibility, for us to actually take precautions for our home first, right? It's about our home first before we can tackle the entire community. But Doc, we have one last question to you because Piotr's already mentioned his take on how perhaps we can do a couple of precautions to help settle down the pollution here, or how we can live our daily lives. But according to you, though, how can we, or how can the government help, and what are the precautions for us to avoid the adverse effects of breathing Jakarta's dirty air? Because you've mentioned that there could be some very, very significant long-term effects of our lungs as well. How can we help us and our families prevent from reaching to that long-term damage point?
Okay, so for those who live in Jakarta and around Jakarta right now, I think you need to decide whether you are safe to go out or not by inform yourself, by monitor the air pollution every day. And if you do not really need to go out, just stay at home. Limit your outdoor activities unless you have to go out urgently due to the maybe earning money, or I need to go to the work. Then, as prior mentioned, wear mask. It can be a regular mask, or it need to also sometimes you need to wear a N95. That one thing. And second, you have to increase your immune system by take a good and balanced nutrition, antioxidant, vitamin, and also I think you need to do some activities that improving your lung function. That is a personal precaution. But I think as the individual who live in Jakarta, clean air is your right. But in current condition, that right is need to be fight for. As I mentioned in many occasions, I always say that we have to advocate the local government. Since data show that public transportation contribute to most contribute to the air pollution. So we have to advocate the local government to increase the proper and appropriate public transportation that convenient to everyone and also affordable.
Right.
And also advocate the local government to do regular checking on emission of the public transportation or the vehicles, and also do implement the regulatory check for the industrial waste.
Right.
And then also, please educate your people by inform them about the condition of air pollution, and then this need to be do it massively, and also make an investment, long-term investment for the good to maintain the good air quality.
Right. So this is my last question to Piotr. To see the Clean Air Act to be made and to be enacted, it takes quite a long process, right? Even Beijing, it took 5 years to be fully implemented, and now they have cleaner air. What is the short-term solution for Indonesia, for individual cause, and of course for the government?
I think the shortest term solution is just enforce the laws that are already in place. There's a standard for industrial emissions. There's a standard for car emissions. There's all these standards that are already, like you mentioned, black on white.
Yeah.
Lowest hanging fruit is just go ahead and start enforcing the things that are already in place while we start planning for the medium and long term things to happen. But like we talked about before, this is something that's going to take 10, 15, 20 years. Something for our kids to enjoy when they're a little bit older. but something like Dr. Erlina said, something we all have to fight for.
Well, certainly interesting perspective from the health perspective and our access that we can actually control our smallest circle, right?
Yeah,
We have the means necessary, and there is also Napas available for you to download. If you need, live updates, of course, about what's around, what's the pollution rate in your neighborhood. So we want to say thank you to Piotr and of course to Dr. Erlina for talking to us this afternoon. And we're going to go for a short break, right?
That's right. I'm looking forward to the price of EVs going down.
That's the main, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And after the break, Maria will deliver some economics and business updates. So please stay with us.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.